And now it's time for our look into the world of wine once more, and I welcome Simon Ward of Glory of Wine Tastings here into the studios. Hello again, Simon.
Hello there, David. Good morning.
We're going to explore, I think as we did last time, we're going to look at one wine in detail, and then you're going to make 3 recommendations of good wines that our listeners might wish to sample.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to start today by talking a little bit about the Chardonnay grape. I find that the Chardonnay grape is a bit of a Marmite grape for people. It's either love it or hate it, but in many ways it's probably the most important grape variety in the world. It's grown all over the world, principally in France, but very successfully in Australia and United States, and pretty much in every wine-producing region in the world. And of course, it makes some of the most famous white wines in the world. I'm always amazed that people say can't stand the Chardonnay, but love Chablis, not realising, of course, that Chablis is made from Chardonnay, and it's of course the most important grape variety in Champagne. Which again, not everybody understands that. Champagne is usually Chardonnay, principally, Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier, which is a lesser grape, but is a combination of the two. But if you ever see a bottle of Champagne with Blanc de Blanc on the bottle, that means it's a wine that's been made entirely of 100% Chardonnay grapes. Right. So, and very very nice it is too. Now, Chardonnay is most famous from the region of Burgundy in France. Some very, very expensive wines from that kind of region, and made in a style that perhaps is less popular these days. It's sort of matured in oak barrels and has a very buttery, kind of rich kind of flavour, which kind of not everybody particularly likes. Even myself, I'm not a huge fan of that style. But of course, Chardonnay became very, very popular in the 1980s and into the 1990s with wines from Australia. Whereas previously Australian wines had been seen as a kind of a touch of naffness, but suddenly became very popular. And I think Oz Clarke came up with the phrase "sunshine in a glass," which is what Chardonnay was seen as, sort of very full flavour, because they're grown in a hot climate in Australia. So you've got these very full kind of banana and pineapple and mango kind of flavours in a glass. It was a huge deal back in the 1980s.
Very heavily oaked, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. They're very full in flavour, and of course, inevitably with anything that becomes a bit of a fad, there's always a backlash, isn't there? And by the kind of mid-90s, there was a bit of a backlash against Chardonnay, and somebody coined the term ABC, which of course is anything but Chardonnay. But Chardonnay continues to be very popular, and obviously Champagne is still a huge hit, and sparkling wines made not necessarily in Champagne still tend to be made from Chardonnay. So it's still a big deal. Chardonnay also makes a great pairing partner for other varieties, so things like Semillon or Colombard, or Semillon in particular in Australia. I'm a big fan of Chardonnay Semillon, so if you have a look on the bottle, you'll see that if you have those two varieties together, that the fullness of the Chardonnay is balanced out perhaps by other grape varieties, which make it a nicer wine to taste. As we've already kind of hinted at, you've got 2 essentially different styles of Chardonnay. There's the kind of old world style, or the classic kind of oaked style from Burgundy, so Macon, Meursault, and some parts of Australia. And then you've got the kind of unoaked style, which tends to be other Australian ones these days, and from Chile as well. They make a lot of very, very good Chardonnay in Chile as well. And of course, we grow some Chardonnay in England as well. Because,
so I believe, yeah.
Yes, we make this great English sparkling wine, and I think we'll feature that in another show. But Chardonnay seems to do okay in England, certainly in southern England, in Kent and Sussex, and we make our English sparkling wine in the same way as the French make their champagne, and in many times we've won competitions with our English sparkling wine, so that's good. In terms of food pairing, well, because Chardonnay is so versatile and it makes so many different styles of wine, there isn't many foods that it won't pair with. I mean, I have a Twitter feed, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, my handle is Glory of Wine, and I do a hashtag series Wine with Dinner, and I've recommended an Australian Chardonnay Semillon with a fish pie, which I think is a good pairing. But something like Chablis, which is very neutral, very dry, they call it flinty, which is a kind of wine tasting term, and that tends to go with kind of slightly lighter dishes, maybe some grilled chicken or some grilled cod. Kind of makes an excellent pairing. But do give Chardonnay a try, because it's the style of wine. If you think of it as being kind of quite buttery and oaked, most Chardonnays these days aren't, and don't be put off by the Chardonnay name. They're well worth trying, and we are going to try one in just a moment. So we'll talk through my other wine recommendations for this week first, and we're going to start with a wine from Asda. This is the Asda Extra Special Barossa Shiraz. So that's Australia. Barossa is a region in Australia, and it's £5.98. So that's good value. Barossa Shiraz tends to be quite spicy, quite full. It's a great wine for beef and for your Sunday roast. If you're having some roast beef this Sunday, I can't recommend it highly enough. Jumping around a little bit now, how about some rosé? Provence rosé is a style that I particularly love. I mean, this is from the south of France. The Mirabeau Côte de Provence rosé from Waitrose is $8.99, so it's a little bit more, but it's a great wine, very delicate flavoured. You can drink it with a kind of light salad, or it actually goes very well with a Chinese takeaway. Okay, and just to reinforce, we'll have all my wine recommendations on my website, so you can go to the website to see those recommendations.
We'll give you the web address at the end, so you don't need to be writing these down. You can listen and then get a list later on.
Absolutely. And when do you like a glass of port, David?
I'm guilty. I'm the kind of person, I think, that the manufacturers of port and sherry must despair over. In fact, I think they often despair of we Brits, don't they? We open a bottle at Christmas and it hangs around for ages. And
that's exactly the answer I was hoping you were going to give
visiting
me.
Aunties.
Yes. Port has this kind of Christmas image. We open it at Christmas. We don't drink it any other time. But it's an absolutely wonderful drink, with some cheese, with some dessert at the end of a meal. And, there are so many value ports out there that, get along and try them. The port that I've got to recommend is actually a tawny port. Now, tawny port is made in a slightly different way to the ruby port style. It's actually matured in oak barrels, and it gets a bit of oxygenation. So oxygen mixes with the wine and kind of gives it a more kind of brown kind of colour. And tawny port, I personally feel, is is the best port to be drinking. The Portuguese love their tawny port, and in the country where the port is made, that's what they like to drink. It's only us that have got the ruby style and
export the ruby drink.
The late bottle vintage style that we tend to like in this country. I can't recommend the tawny highly enough. So, from Lidl, and at just $5.99,
that's astonishing.
Their Armila tawny port is a fat port. I buy quite a lot of it and absolutely love it. It's a rich, nutty flavour. It's great with desserts, or you can drink it on its own, or maybe with some cheese. So those are my three wine recommendations. And then we're going to come on to one that we're going to try. And this is a wine from Aldi. It's from their Exquisite collection. And I've tried many from their Exquisite collection, and they're all fantastic. And it's just $5.99. And it's their Australian Limestone Coast Chardonnay. $5.99 from Aldi. And again, we'll do some slurping on the radio now, so we've got a glass each to have a try of.
Yes, we're being so careful with this liquid near this expensive equipment. And again, this is very pale, isn't it?
It's a very pale colour, isn't it? Yeah. And so we have a little look at it first, and then have a little sniff. Peachy, a little bit of peach, I think.
So I shall defer to your skills and the descriptions, I think, Simon. Yes,
and what I love about this wine is it's people think of Chardonnay being very full in flavour. The flavours are actually quite delicate on this wine. You've got a little bit of pineapple, a little bit of peach.
Yeah, because there is that. Yeah, I agree. There is that that sort of slight acidity that you get from pineapple, even though the pineapple's sweet. There's still that.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that is an absolutely terrific wine that will just about pair with anything. I think with some grilled chicken, I think that would be, or sort of pasta with a cream sauce. I was going to
say, if you're eating something that's sort of quite rich, that's going to kind of cut through it a bit. I think.
Absolutely.
Clean your mouth. Oh, that's really nice. I mean, full of flavour, but not
not too overpowering, so that it sort of puts you off.
So I do remember those sort of hefty Australian Chardonnays, and they're almost oily in the mouth. Some of them.
That's right. Too much, really. Too much.
Well, let's say it's kind of Aussie butch wine, really, weren't they?
Yeah, that's it, and that's what they were all about in those days. But people have moved on, and this style of wine is really good. And you could drink that without food. I mean,
yeah, that's really delicate.
That is really good. Yeah, great.
Well done. You can come again. So, those wines, the recommendations, and particularly the Chardonnay we've just tried, you're going to put listings of those wines on your website.
I will, yeah. And the web address is www.gloryofwine, all one word, .com. So gloryofwine.com.
Gloryofwine.com, and we'll make sure that it's conspicuous on the home page. Thank you very much, Simon. That's great recommendations. We'll see you again in a few weeks' time.
Thank you, David. See you soon.